if I make some stupid faces, just know I can't see you from here.
That's fair.
How's your holiday?
It was good.
Have you made it here yet?
3 months. We're in the last trimester.
Okay.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
Is it a boy or a girl?
It's gonna be fun.
What's his name?
It's down to 2, but I
I love you.
I can't even tell my wife. I mean, I can't even tell my grandma. My wife said, "Don't tell your mother."
Why? Why can't you tell you? Is it like a creative name?
It's one of
definitely
them's a
not a
creative
family
name.
name.
One of them's a pretty standard name. I think we're gonna go with the creative name. So,
Because you come to commissioner's court so often.
Well, that's the problem. I haven't been.
You are
Newbies.
tall.
I'm ready.
okay.
Read him off.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
if
you
he's
guys-
looking at you.
Oh, hey. I guess you guys probably want a synopsis of what we did today. Yeah?
Primarily the hotel.
Yeah, for the hotel.
Sure. So today we voted to put out a proposal to accept the potential hiring of a brokerage firm to sell the Carlton Hotel. We took that as a first step to test the private market to see if there was any interest in the Carlton Hotel and to determine whether or not the right course of action for the county and its citizens potentially might be to get that back on the tax rolls and to reinvigorate the economy of downtown Tyler and to get that old building refurbished or rebuilt.
How long has it been since someone has occupied that building or businesses have been in that building?
It's been several years since anybody has occupied that building. The last occupants actually was Smith County, and we had some offices over there, including a constable's office, JP office, and the facilities group were over there. But it's been a number of years before since it's actually been used, and we want to see whether or not going forward the best use of that building would be again to put it on the tax rolls and let somebody with private money do something with that building.
Yeah, and you were mentioning, I guess, with this proposal, there's certain restrictions. I guess that way that y'all will still have kind of a say or an input on what goes in that building. Is there anything in particular y'all are wanting to see in that building?
Well, the reason why we started out with the possibility of hiring a brokerage firm, and again, that may be something that we decide is not the best course of action once those proposals come back, but to start down that path, we want to have the ability to understand that there is something actually going to happen with the building if we decide to go the brokerage route and sell it to a private company. When you go the bid route, it's strictly a matter of dollars and accepting dollars up front and who has the highest dollar amount bid for the property. Whereas when you go the brokerage route, you have some options to put some restrictions and make sure that there's going to be some use. And we want the best and highest use for that building for the citizens of Smith County and for the county.
And y'all been kind of picky with it, like Commissioner Hampton said, hopefully third time's the charm with this one.
Absolutely. We've tested the market with this building before in the past. We've had some unsuccessful sales, and we want to test the market one more time. You know, sometimes in real estate it's just a matter of timing and finding the right buyer at the right time, and we're going to see if this is the right time for that.
Do you have a buyer in mind? Have y'all been contacted by anybody?
We do not have a buyer in mind. We would like to put this out through a broker, hopefully that has good experience with commercial buildings, possibly a broker with historic experience, so that we can find the best purchaser in the private sector that might be able to do something good with the Carlton Hotel moving forward.
And this is a pretty big change of heart for the Commissioner's Court. I mean, last year we were doing a study on turning it into a courts building, and this year we're looking at selling it. Is there anything you can say to kind of that culture change?
Well, I think that the court is interested in surveying all the options and making sure that we do our due diligence to understand what is the best option. Last year, when the Carlton study was done to determine whether or not we could, in fact, use that building internally, that was one avenue this court looked at. Now, here's another avenue that we want to look at again to see whether or not that the private sector has an interested buyer to do something good with that piece of property, to get it back on the tax rolls, and to benefit the citizens of Smith County. Ultimately, at the end of this process, we may decide that this is not the best time or the best avenue to pursue. But there's only one way to find that out, and that's to test the market.
And then too, I know the discussions in the last round when they did the studies heard in the courts is that once the county loses that building, it's gone. It does have a good proximity to a lot of county facilities. So is that a consideration?
It does have a good proximity with other county facilities, and it is, and it should be continuing to be something that we think about, because at the end of the day, we may decide that it's best just to keep that property and to hold it until we need it for future use, and that certainly is a consideration going forward.
You keep on talking about restrictions, and that's something that's weighing your options. What restrictions are you talking about? Like, what would you not want to be placed there?
Well, what I'm talking about specifically when I talk about restrictions and things that could occur there is really we want to know that any potential buyer does have the financial means to do what they say they're going to do with the property. And we want to understand that it's not just going to be purchased and then sit vacant for years and years as it is now. If we find a buyer that's a willing buyer and an able buyer, we want to know that there's going to be a good use of that property that's going to get good value back to the taxpayers of Smith County.
What would you consider a good use to that building?
Well, right now, I don't really want to comment on limiting the parameters of what might or might not be a good use. I want to be sure that we look at all options. You know, there's a reason why commercial developers are successful. It's because they can be creative. And there's a reason why I'm not a commercial developer. So I want to see what kind of creative ideas are out there and what kind of proposals that we might end up getting once we go through this process.
And then, do you guys have any plans to spruce up that building? It is often called Tyler's eyesore. In some discussions in the past, there was talk of like painting it or at least power washing it. Is there replacing windows on it? Is there any considerations in this budget or in next year's budget to like fix it some?
Currently, in this year's budget, there are no provisions by which no anticipated renovations to the Carlton building.